Do-do-do-do-do. The anticipation.
My co-host,
I only got one, so.
I dragged him into the call. So.
How's it going, guys?
Oh, here he is. Hey,
There
how's
he
it
is.
going, Tyson?
It's going good, man. How's it going?
Anyway, Robert, I'm Jake, also known as Zombie from Max Gamer Podcast. My co-host Tyson, my actual brother, is Enigma from Max Gamer Podcast, and we cannot believe that we actually got you on the show. So, but
It's good to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
So, anyway, are we live on Twitch TV, Enigma?
We are currently live on Twitch TV, so
Awesome. Well, let's get this interview over with, so that way we can let Robert get over to his next interview.
awesome. As I said before, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm really glad that Jay sent off that Facebook message to you.
So
It was one of those things where I was really impressed about it. Anyways, yeah, let's go right into the interview so we can get you on with doing your other interviews today. So go ahead, Jake. Let's start us off, man.
all right. Well, let's see here. How does it feel to be working with your son? And do you get a sense that someday or currently that he could be better than you with writing books?
Well, better is a tough term when you're talking about novel writing because some people, everyone will argue about who's better than who, and the only person who can really determine the value of a book is the reader of a book. And I think Gino brings a lot of things to the table that I can't bring. And hopefully he feels the same way about me. Really impressed with his storytelling and his instincts for it. And, we'll just see how it goes. It's up to the readers. I personally, I wish I could write the way he writes, but I can't, so whatever.
Well, from what I was seeing, I mean, we got an advanced copy of the Stone of Tymora, and from what I was looking at it, and I was reading it, I've been reading your book since I was pretty much born. I mean, I started with the Dark Elf trilogy, and then I moved on to like the Stone of Tymora and such. There's definitely a difference in your guys' writing style. It can be seen, but I think it's a compliment. You guys complement each other very well in this latest book. Go ahead, Jake.
All right. So, how do you create such elaborate characters to write about in the books? Do the Forgotten Realms rule sets and bestiarity and stuff like that help making the conflicts for characters and stuff like that a little easier, or do you kind of take some liberties there?
Oh, you take a ton of liberties. The thing is, well, you have to because you're not making a game character. You're making someone that somebody else has to believe in as a real person. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot like. If you ever sat around the game table and you hear people say, "Oh, my character's afraid of spiders," and then from that time forward, in every situation, that will come up. Like it's the most important thing about somebody's character. Mm-hmm. Whereas, I know people who are afraid of spiders, and you hear about it every 10 years when a spider lands on them.
Exactly.
So you don't want idiosyncrasies, and I try to do this in gaming too, and I hope most people do. You try to make the character real, and I hope that this is one of the positive effects that I've had when I bring my style to Gino. Is that one thing I really try to do in all the books is that all the characters, even the little guys, have to be real. There has to be something about them.
So yeah,
You know what I mean? They have to have motivations that make sense.
Yeah, when we were doing some research to find some questions and stuff, we were reading an interview and the interviewer asked what characters you were most surprised in. You answered Regis, and your answer was just because he's surprised you. He wants to be a hero, but he's kind of stuck with like the what am I trying to say?
The basically the coward, the coward basically.
Yeah, like a tag-along almost.
Yeah.
And
oh, absolutely.
In some areas and stuff like that, he really steps up to the plate and surprises you. So I thought that was kind of interesting when that was going on. So
Well, Regis is the guy on the basketball team who never wants him to throw him the ball. You know what I mean? But every now and then he makes a last-minute shot.
Exactly.
as much by accident as anything else.
No, yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
And
Over the years, I've definitely noticed that as well, and he's one of the characters that I've actually been really surprised with myself, just because of his growth from the very first book that I've ever that we met him with to the latest book that he was in. It's his entire style and his entire attitude has changed over the years. Does that reflect anything that's happened or?
Have you ever been the kid on the basketball team or the hockey team that maybe was the least confident one out there and didn't want to touch the ball?
Yeah,
I was when
yeah.
I first started playing, and other people might pick up on that and make fun of you or whatever. But the truth of it is, you knew it all along, and it's been killing you because you want to be that guy that wants the ball, right?
Right.
Playing baseball, and I tell this to all the guys on my softball teams. And when I'm coaching the kids, I tell them the same thing. If you don't want that ball to be hit at you with 2 outs in the last inning, then you don't belong on the field. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing you have to overcome in a game like baseball is you have to want to be the guy that makes the play. Mm-hmm. Or the guy that gets the big hit in the bottom of the ninth. That's who you have to want to be. And that's why you play the game. You can if you're a baseball player, as I've been my whole life, only softball for me. So I play 7-inning games in softball. That's 21 outs, right? The only ones you really remember are the last outs, or the last out you didn't make when you got the big hit to win the game. That's why you play. Regis is kind of like that. He's a guy who he knows he's a liability to his friends. They'll never say it to him. But he knows, and it kills him. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for him, he doesn't have the tools to get that big hit compared to them. I mean, Dritz can mow down a line of giants, Bruner can chop their knees out, Caddy Bree can shoot them down, and Wolfgar can pick them up and throw them away. Regis can hide from them. And he knows that. So you see in scenes like I'm going to get my books all mixed up now. I always do. But I'm guessing it was the Orc King when they were heading back to Mithril Hall. And they came to the tower that had the giants, and Regis climbed up the side of the tower. It was a really amazing thing for him to do.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
But that's because it just nagged at him for all those years that he was the tag-along.
Yeah. And that's actually the book that we're listening to it. We picked it up from audible.com, and we were listening to it on our job. We drive for like 8 hours straight before we can start doing our work and stuff like that every other week. And so we've been listening to the Orc King, the Pirate King. We're on the Pirate King now. But in the Orc King, that's the one where I actually started noticing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So when I read the interview just a few days ago to do research and stuff, I was like, oh. And Bruner's there, and he's well, Grumblebelly's going to come with us, and Regis is like, I am? Okay.
Yep.
But Bruner's like, I know you got it in you, and so he's like, I'm going to keep giving you the options to do what you want to do inside. And so I thought that was awesome. So, but let's get back over to the Stone of Tymora. Can you kind of give us a little bit of what we can expect and what fans can expect to see in the Stone of Tymora?
Yeah, the Stone of Tymora the first book takes place right alongside the Halfling's Gem. And it's the story of Maimon, a teenager, who winds up on I don't want to give too much away because I love the little surprise twists in the plot. Mm-hmm. But Maimon's story runs right beside the story of the companions of the Hall when they're going to Kalimport to rescue Regis from Intrari. And so I got to rewrite some of my favorite scenes from the Halfling's Gem from a different point of view. And one I'm always thinking of is Bruner in the flaming chariot attacking the pirate ships, mm-hmm. which I just love that scene. And I got to rewrite it from a different point of view in the book. But really, the story, the story of Maimon is a coming-of-age story, and it's an expectation story. And through the 3 books, what you're going to see with him is his changing character as he grows up. And it's a real winding road for him. And I got to play up on this more. You said you're reading The Pirate King now. You're listening to The Pirate King now. He's in that book as not a kid anymore, obviously, because it's many years later. And it's just one of the things that Gino and I discovered as we were trying to set this story, because we knew the story we wanted to tell. And of course, Wizards of the Coast wanted it to be a Dritz story, but not a Dritz story, you know, with new protagonists. And when we decided we were going to start alongside the Halfling's Gem, and that's mostly because there's a 6-year gap between the Halfling's Gem and the Legacy. And that would be the safest place to put it. But when we did that, all of these things started falling into place. From the things that happened to the companions of the Hall that Maimon, from his perspective, would have seen from the side. Or that they would have seen from the side that would be affecting him through the whole journey to Calimport and back. And it was one of those really exciting and really creepy times as a writer when things are just falling into place too neatly. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of go, wait a minute, am I making up this story, or is this something that I've just tapped into in some alternate universe or something? Because it was just working too perfectly. Yeah. And you love when that happens.
So.
It's just working way too smoothly. You're like, there's got to be something that goes wrong here.
So. Yeah, or why is it so smooth? How are all these things together? There are weird times as a writer when you forget that you've got made up characters, and it's almost like you're on the phone with them.
So with this latest book, what was the creative process behind it? I mean, I know that you're working with your son and such. Did he have a lot of implementation into the character development? Like, were all of these pretty much his own original characters, all the new characters and such, or were they kind of a combination of the two of you?
No, the two main protagonists, Maimon and Joan, are his creations.
Okay.
And so's the antagonist. The antagonist was kind of a combination, but the book, the way we worked it was, we came up with Gino told me an idea for a book he wanted to write. And I was trying to come up with this young adult, which is what they called it. But see, I don't buy that, because I think all the Dritz books can be called young adult books. Mm-hmm. I think they work from 10 to 70. That's why they work. So the Wizards wanted me to come up with this story. They wanted me working with one of the kids because I didn't have time to do the whole thing myself. I was too busy with the other books I was writing and with 38 Studios at the time. And Gino came up with this story that he wanted to tell. We figured out where we could put it. We massaged it a little bit to make it fit with the Dritz, the Dritz history, the Dritz canon, if you will. And then he did most of the writing, but it was very handheld. So he would write a chapter, and then and then I'd jump in and edit the chapter and yell at him, and he'd yell at me, and all the good things you go through. And then there were a couple of chapters I insisted on writing, like the one with the flaming chariot again, because I didn't want anyone else touching.
Too close to heart, yeah.
Too close to heart, right? But he did most of the writing. I was like a looking over his shoulder while he was doing it editor. We were working in the same room, and it worked out really well. And the way I knew it was working is by the second book, instead of reading every chapter, by the time we get to Shadowmask, instead of reading every chapter, and wait a minute, where are we going? And kind of holding his hand, I would let him get a few chapters ahead of me because I was just enjoying the read a lot more. Mm. And then by the third book, I said, okay, go write it. And when you're done, give it to me. And then we'll rewrite it. And I took my notes. And, of course, by this time, I had come to trust his editor, Nina Hess, who is now my editor, by the way. By this time, I came to realize how amazing she is. And I'm not just saying that. One of the best editors I've ever seen right there is Nina, without a doubt. She's got a great eye. She knows what she's doing. And so I remember I read the third book, and I took all my notes, but I didn't give them to Gino, and I told him, send this in to Nina. I want to see what she says. And then he got this big rewrite from Nina, and he was grumping and complaining about it, and I showed him my notes, and they were identical.
Nice.
So we were on the same page, and so he and I got together and did the rewrite, and that's when I really got my input into the third book. But the process worked beautifully for us, and it's still working because we did the Neverwinter Tales IDW comic series. Mm-hmm. And we're doing a second series for IDW right now. We haven't named it yet, but we're halfway through it. That'll be coming out next year, and we hope to do more. So especially with comics, which is more Gino's style because he's more of a screenwriter. That's where his heart is screenwriting, and comics fits that with the storyboarding you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So especially with the comics, we'll be working together for a long time. But I think if we go back to novels, if we go back to Forgotten Realms novels and Maiman stories or whatever, or new stuff, and he wants to do it, I think he should do it alone. I think he should fly on his own at this point. He doesn't need me.
Yeah.
Well, and with flying on his own, would he have any access to any of your current characters like Drizzt or any of those characters that we've known from Heart for so long?
Writing on his own?
Yeah.
Not as long as I'm alive. I mean, he can do a cameo, but no, I don't like sharing characters. I do believe, though, that when I retire or die or whatever, that one of my sons would probably be the one to step in if anyone was going to. That would be it, and pick it up. But who knows by then, right? I mean,
Exactly.
Well,
hopefully that's a long, long time.
Yeah, we can only hope that that's a long time from now.
Yeah.
No, but you had mentioned 38 Studios earlier. I don't want to get too far into it because I know that it was kind of a strange situation. But as a gaming show and a gaming podcast, we've got to ask the question. I mean, with the entire Kingdoms of Amular series, I mean, what was the process behind that? What kind of creative process were you in on that? I guess what I'm trying to say is how much. What's the word I'm looking for? How much creative properties were you given? Were you given like pretty much free reign of the entire game, or what?
You talking about for Reckoning?
Yeah.
No, not at all. Here's the deal. I came in, this was in 2006, and I assembled my Dungeons and Dragons group and a couple of others, and I built a world. And they were my researchers. They were the ones helping me put together the presentation for 38 Studios that we had to do in October of that year. And then I did the presentation. We were building the offices for 38 Studios. I was in there 2 to 3 to 4 times a week, working with the team. And at the beginning, all we were doing was building the world and the world history because we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the engineers. And so we had a few artists and we had some designers. And so we would get together all the time, and I was in there constantly. And we were building off what my team had done, this world that I had created, Amalur. And one of the guys from my team actually got hired there, and by the time the company folded, was pretty much the director of the IP. And we built the world. We built what it was going to look like. We built what it was going to smell like and feel like, and what the history was, this 10,000-year history. By the time we bought the 38 Studios, I keep saying we, but by the time 38 Studios bought Big Huge Games, who did Reckoning, my involvement with the company had been pared back quite dramatically. My work was pretty much done. I created the world. Then I had to hand it over to the guys who were in there 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, the narrative guys. So BHG came up with a storyline. We gave them the timeline, and the history, the 10,000-year history. They came up with a storyline that fit in a certain place, and then they pitched the storyline back to us, me and Steve Danuser and Mike Ledger. And then I grilled them. And how does this fit with the philosophy of the world, the history of the world? And we worked out all the kinks. We worked back and forth on that. But, the stuff that you saw in Reckoning, like the House of Ballads, which was just brilliant, by the way. I didn't write that. I wish I had. All that goes to the narrative team at Big Huge Games. These guys were just phenomenal. They jumped into our IP, our intellectual property, and they made it their own. And that is a really cool thing to watch. Well, so give all credit to them. I mean, the world, the general background was mine, but even like the Fate thing in Reckoning, that was a BHG ad that really plays a small role in the history of Amalur, but only in that time period. So it's very. I mean, the thing that frustrates me the most about this whole thing is how huge the world we had created was with the history and what people got to see was like one corner of one dip of icing. Like maybe one flower on the top of a huge cake.
Yeah.
And they think that's Amalur, but it's not. It's just one cool part of it. And the rest of it may be forever buried in bankruptcy court. And there's nothing I can do about it.
That would be a shame. I'm telling you right now.
It would be a shame.
And with the you just mentioned the Fate. I mean, what do you think of that kind of play style and such? I mean, what were your opinions on that?
Well, I never accepted it as Fate.
Okay.
To me, Fate was the opiate of the masses. Fate was what the lords used to convince the cobbler's son that he had to be a cobbler's son. Uh-huh. And because of the magic at the time, it was a time of high magic, the age of arcana. The magic was in you. It was in the air around you. You could see it in the air. And it would reinforce what you did. So it was almost like muscle memory via magic. So if you're a cobbler's son and you're making shoes, you can become really good at making shoes.
Yeah.
You're better than anyone else. It reinforces the notion of fate. And so to me, the character in Reckoning was really threatening. And this is something I wish I think we were going to play up on more in the sequel if we ever did one. Uh-huh. Was the idea that the powers that be were going to hate this guy because he was a threat to them.
No, that would make a lot of sense, because if it wasn't for the Fate, then you could pretty much just overthrow anybody pretty much.
Exactly.
Well, because I mean the whole point of fate, I didn't believe that everyone in the world was fated, other than that they were fated to die one day, like we all are.
Exactly.
But if they believed they were fated, it's like Marx called religion the opiate of the masses. Fate becomes the opiate of the masses, just like the religion of that world.
Yeah.
And the lords love it.
So I kind of have to ask a question about the. Like Elbrian the Ranger from the Corona series,
yep.
and Dritz to Erden. If those two worlds could ever collide together, would those two characters get along?
Brilliantly. Absolutely. Of course they would. The moral code, I think, of most of my heroes is the same, because I've always believed that the hero is the guy with the biggest heart, not the guy with the biggest gun.
Exactly.
And that's Dritz and Elbrian. And Dritz would... The only time they wouldn't get along is when Dritz fell in love with Giuseppe and Elbrian fell in love with Caddy Bree. Then there'd be a problem. But no, they'd get along. They'd get along beautifully.
So yeah, the Demon War saga and the Corona series and stuff. I read it book by book every time one came out. I was at the local bookstore, pre-ordered everything like that.
The Highwayman too.
Yeah, the Highwayman too. And then when they came out on graphic audio, that was like. Awesome for us.
Aren't they amazing?
Yeah, they really are.
Amazing.
No, they really are, and that's one question that we were going to ask you is with the graphic audio. I mean that was just an amazing addition to your arsenal of books that were already fantastic. They just remade it and made it, dramatized it and made it that much better, in my own opinion.
I don't know if the last one is out yet. They did the Highwayman, the Ancient, the Dame. I don't know if the Bear is out yet. If it's not, it's coming out very soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're an amazing company. I love working with them.
No, awesome. Definitely. That was one thing that we were going to ask you is, can we see? Are we ever going to see any more from graphic audio of maybe any of the Dritz series if Forgotten Realms lets you? Or Wizards of the Coast, I should say.
It's up to Hasbro. Hasbro owns the realms. If I was in control of the Dritz books, I would probably have graphic audio already done them, but I'm not, and there are bigger considerations for a company like Hasbro. They have to deal on a much larger level than I do.
Definitely.
About every decision they make, and so someday maybe, but that won't really be up to me.
Yeah. No, we kind of figured that. We just wanted to know if you were possibly making any, if you could give us any, looks into anything that you might be creating for them, but yeah, it's fantastic. That's all I got to say. One other question that we had that we just, it was a personal question of ours, is Cleric Quintet. The Boulder Shoulder Brothers. That was a fantastic set of books. We were just wondering if we will ever see anything else from those guys.
It's possible, because they're dwarves, so they probably survived the 100-year jump. Mm-hmm. In the realms, so it's possible. I've been so tied up in, right now I'm up to 2 books a year starting next year, and the reason is because there's so much going on, and it's really important to what I'm trying to accomplish with the series. And so I'm so buried right now with Dritz and Triri and Dahlia and all the things going on with them that I haven't even thought about other characters like the Boulder Shoulders who might still be out there. Another one is Vander. Remember Vander?
Yep.
I love Vander. I've always wanted to go back and explore him and his life a little bit. But we're so focused on going forward, and I have this absolute need to see Dritz through this change that's happening with 5th edition, the way I wanted him to go through it, and really in Triri and Dahlia and all the rest as well, that I haven't even thought about, other than Jarl Axel, who's always there, and a couple of new characters I've introduced. I haven't even thought about who might be out there. Like, was Catterley still walking around the Spirit Soaring as the Ghost King? You know, what happened to Catterley's kids? Did they have kids? Does he have grandchildren, great-grandchildren running around now? You know, there's so many possibilities that I could always go to at times, but this isn't the time.
No, that's an awesome answer. I hope we can see it at some point someday. But either way, the Cleric Quintet was a fantastic set of books, and we really enjoyed it personally. I just wanted to share a quick story we had with that. It just shows the amount of people that have read that series and read all of your series. Really, we were in World of Warcraft recently, and we have two dwarf characters, and I was like, me brother, and instantly we had like 4 people going, Cleric Quintet, is he a doodad?
Yeah.
We were like, no.
Wow, I got a better WoW story for you. I was in a pickup group with my character Brunner with 2 R's on the end, and there was the leader of the pug was named Inovindil, right, from the Lone Drow.
Yeah.
And I got this tell from her, Salvatore for the win, and I was like, who? I started playing around, right? It was fun. And then finally we had this big discussion going, and, I love these books, and da-da-da-da-da, and I got to tell her. So I told her it was me, and she didn't believe me. So she started quizzing me. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to let's go kill things. I don't want to do a quiz on my books. And she's asking me questions about the Crystal Shard, which I wrote in 1987. It's like, you know more about it than I do at this point. I was young then. I'm old now. And finally she said, did you play in a mud named, and she named some mud. I'm saying she, but it might have been a guy. I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd never played in the mud. And I said, I never heard of that. And so she knew I was a liar then, because the real R.A. Salvatore was playing in that mud. And I was like, uh-oh. And then she got me booted out of the group. The next thing I know, I'm back in Storm going, wait a minute,
man.
How did that happen? I got booted out of the group for impersonating myself in a role. That's hard, man.
That is fantastic.
That's very hard. That's very hard.
Well, that brings me to our next question. I know we're running a little bit close to our time frame. I just wanted to get this question right out there. I mean, what kind of games do you play? You just mentioned WoW. Us as a gaming podcast and such, we would like to know what kind of games you frequently play. I mean, and I know you play Dungeons and Dragons, obviously.
Yeah.
But
first edition.
Yep.
And we're going to go to 5th edition as the rules get more secure. I'm back to WoW.
Mr. Pandaria.
My wife and I went back to WoW to see this Pandaria expansion. Only played one night. I've been busy. There's a thing called Project 1999 that I've heard about. That's classic EverQuest.
Oh.
And I'm afraid to try it because EverQuest was like my favorite game ever.
Get addicted back on it.
Well, it's not that I'd get addicted back on it, but would it be so outdated now that I just couldn't do it? So eventually, I'm gonna find out. As long as the guys at Sony are okay with me trying this, because I don't want to get them all mad at me. I might try that, try an emulator. Other than that, I really Borderlands 2 we just got, but I haven't. But all the computers have been hogged by my kids, who all moved back home briefly. And so I haven't been able to really get on that yet, but that's another one I want to try. I haven't been gaming nearly as much in the last few months. We've had a lot of things going on here, personal things and business. Just been so busy with the book tours and stuff that I just haven't had a time to really get into games for a while. The last game I really played was Reckoning, and I've been done that for several months. So... hopefully as the winter kicks in here, I'll get addicted to something. I need something.
Well, that's fantastic. I can't tell you how much that warms my heart knowing that we actually have authors out there that are gamers as well. You know, it's one of those things where you don't really think about that too much. If the person that you're in a like you that example that you had just barely, if the person you're in a pug with is really the real R.A. Salvatore.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kurt Schilling told me that dozens of Major League Baseball players and other professional athletes are gamers, big gamers.
No, yeah.
It's the new TV, right? I mean,
It is. Hopefully, we can see like a World of Warcraft commercial instead of with
Mr. T.
Yeah, with Mr. T or something. It would be R.A. Salvatore.
Oh, come on! I wouldn't want to follow William Shatner on those commercials. Are you kidding me?
Too big of shoes to fill,
Best
yeah.
commercials ever.
Fantastic.
So-
What I'd really like to do is do a guest spot on The Big Bang Theory and have Sheldon try to kill me for killing Chewie. I think that.
Hey, it's happened before. I mean,
Stanley.
yeah, Stan Lee and Stephen Hawking.
Yep. Stephen Hawking was on it.
Both of them wanted to make, and they actually contacted the studio and said, "We want to be on your show," and so they
Really?
actually
I didn't know that.
wrote. Yeah,
I
they
didn't-
actually wrote it in there. So
I just saw Stan down at Dragon Con. He's looking great.
yeah, he has to have some superpowers or something.
He's got to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, well, Robert, it was good to talk to you.
It really
we
was.
should let you get going over to your next interview and stuff like that. And if you ever want to play some World of Warcraft or any other type of game, you can always hit us up. We're always down for playing games.
Well, thanks a lot.
So,
Thanks a lot,
All right,
Robert.
well, you guys have a great time, and thanks for the interest, and it's good to be here, and I'm sure we'll talk again. A lot of books coming up.
I'm really
Awesome.
hoping so. I really am, and it's fantastic meeting you. It's fantastic talking to you, and I'll definitely be purchasing the rest of your books for sure.
Hey, the last threshold in March.
yeah,
Fantastic.
I'm going to be trying to get signed copies of both Stone of Tymora and Karen's Claw from you here shortly.
If we can ever get out to one of your signings,
Well,
Well, he's-
all right, that allows me to do a plug. If you go to rasalvatore.com, we run e-signings where you can buy the book and get it signed and personalized.
there you go.
And we're running one right now for Karen's Claw, the graphic audio of The Highwayman, and the Stone of Tymora. It's up right now.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Plugging that.
Just go on over. It's right there.
Definitely going to do that.
And we do that because I always wind up in the same place. There's not a lot of places you can do book signings anymore because
Yeah.
there aren't as many bookstores.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, oh, I wish I could make a signing, but you're not coming close. So I started this thing called e-signings many years ago. I actually have the copyright on the term e-signing. And we do them. And they work out great.
Well, there you go, guys.
That is
Like you just said, if you want a signed copy, personalized, go to rasalvatore.com. Check it
Yep.
out. So, all right, thank you very much, Robert. We'll let you get on to your next interview.
Okay.
It's been fantastic talking to you, man. Thank you very much.
Same
Thank
here.
you.
Talk to you soon, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Recording saved.
All right, there you go, guys. You heard it right there. Go to www.rasalvatore.com. Sorry about that. You heard it right there. Go right over to rasalvatore.com if you want to get a personalized e-signed book, audio disc for his graphic audio stuff, anything like that. Go check that out. Don't forget, we will be posting this up later on. We'll be even having a podcast here pretty quickly, and then we'll be replaying it as well. So tell your friends about it. If they were not able to tune into the live stream, they can get a hold of it as soon as I get a chance to actually edit that audio. That was fantastic, wasn't it, Zombie?
It was awesome.
God, I am stoked. That was awesome. Oh, man.
I've had a lot of questions answered that I've always had questions about in my life and stuff like that. Between O'Brien the Ranger from the Corona series and Dritz Duerden, and if they're kind of similar characters, or if O'Brien might, not get along so well with Dritz because of his heritage as a Drow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I liked the way that he said that though. With he'd probably go after.
of course they would. Until Dritz fell in love with Giuseppe.
For sure, man. It seems like everybody fell in love with Giuseppe, bro.
Oh, I know, dude.
Thank you, Karen. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic interview. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, we'll be posting it again. So if you guys could help us out, posting up the reposts of the show, of the interview, whatever you guys can, spread the word as much as you can. Let's get the word out for Stone of Tymora, as well as Karen's Claw. So with that being said, guys, like I said, we'll be doing the podcast here pretty quickly. And other than that, got anything else to say, Zombie?
Just keep gaming.
Just
keep reading those novels.
Keep reading the novels.
I mean, R.A. Salvatore, there's not a reason why you shouldn't read one of his books.
There really isn't.
Full of adventure.
If you have never read any of his books, I would suggest trying to start with his earlier stuff, like the Dark Elf, Icewind Dale, Dark Elf trilogy, anything like that. Go and check those out. I'm sure you can get them on Audible.com
there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them on there. They're cheap too. I mean, I think they're like $10?
Audible.com, I
$12?
believe it's $7.95 a month.
Is it?
And you just download them.
There you go.
So
sponsor.
Yeah, sponsor.
I wish, man.
Yeah, that's. Oh man, I definitely want to get him back on again, like in 6 months.
I would love to get him back in. That'd be fantastic. Anyways, guys, we're going to go. I need to do some editing of audio, and then we'll be right back with a podcast here in about 30 minutes, 30, 45, maybe an hour. Depends on what's going on. I'm kind of hungry right now. I haven't had any breakfast, so maybe I'll go and get some breakfast.
Before the interview.
But yeah, we'll be right back in just a little bit with the podcast and a replay of the interview, nice and edited and such. But thanks for joining us over here on the live stream, and go if you guys can go and click on that follow or whatever the button is to subscribe to us, please. We would love for you guys to subscribe to us. It not only helps us, but it helps you by giving you an email for when we actually start live streaming. Basically, whenever I start live streaming or whenever a zombie starts live streaming, it'll send you an email saying, hey, by the way, Max Gamer Podcast is currently live streaming this, or Max Gamer Podcast is currently live streaming this, So go ahead and do that if you guys can. Also, don't forget to subscribe to all of our services. Go to www.facebook.com/Max Gamer Podcast. Follow us there. Twitter.com/Max Gamer Podcast. Follow us there. And of course, go and check us out on our YouTube, which the interview will be posted on here within the next hour or so, a couple hours maybe. Go and subscribe to us there as well, guys. All right, thanks a lot. Like you said earlier, just keep gaming, guys. Just keep gaming.
Keep gaming.
And if I can get my Twitch to actually work.